Okay, great. I'm joined today by some of my colleagues from the Low Income Child Care Initiative. Matt Williams is on the call. He's our Director of Research. Sally Frederick is on the call. She's a policy analyst. And I believe Roberta Avila is on the call, and she works with our child care leadership team. Jerlene Osborne is on the call, and she works with our Employment Equity for Single Moms project. And we are here to share information. What we want is to let you know how to find what you need on the DHS website in order to complete your application. We want to highlight a few things that we think are important for you to know. We want to share a few concerns with you that we have about the application process, but mostly what we want is to hear your questions and concerns. And we intend to share back to DHS what concerns there are, what questions there are, where DHS needs to provide more clarity. We also want to encourage DHS to provide more technical assistance and training on completing this process, because you all may remember that the meeting that they had earlier this week, they ended before all the questions got answered. So let's go to the website. I'm gonna share my screen so that we can all see.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, are y'all able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I'm sure y'all have been to this website. It's the Early Childhood Care and Development website at DHS. I want to let you know that when DHS did their presentation earlier this week, they told us that they were going to continuously update this. So what is there today might change. So I would encourage you to check on it periodically as you move through your application process. So at the very top,
Yeah, first to try to get on there.
they have information about what part of the American Rescue Plan money.
I was done checking them all in.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I know that.
Can somebody mute? This is where the funds for the Child Care Stabilization Grant are coming from, the $319 million. This section of the website talks about who is eligible. And one of the things they say is that you have to be in good financial standing. And I just want to point out that this is a link right here that you can click if you want to see the list of providers that they have listed who are in good standing. This is that list. And you can scroll down and make sure your name is on it. The next section is a list of the ways that you can use these funds. And you'll see in the application that DHS is not asking you to put dollar amounts. They're just asking you to check.
About now, Katie.
They're asking you to check which of these you plan to use the money for. And you won't even be held to that. They just want to get a sense of what you plan to do with the money. The next section of the website talks about how to calculate the amount of money you're likely to get. And they have built in a calculator for you to make it pretty easy.
Listen to it.
Hey, let me get a deposit for checking.
Answer the phone. I'm in class.
Is it? Let me see what I can do about the muting.
Hey, my son, you done?
No, I'm gonna put this stuff up, clean this.
This section is about calculating the award that you would get. And they've built in a calculator for you to use to make it pretty
Hey.
easy. This is the place where you would find the dollar amount that you're going to need for that
Okay.
calculator. You can see here that if you're a small provider, meaning if your maximum capacity is 0 to 16 and you're full-time or part-time, the per child amount is here. The same for medium-sized providers and large providers. You would take your per child amount per month and you would multiply that times the number of children that are your maximum capacity and then times 6 months. And they're going to have a calculator for you to do that. This next section talks about bonus money that you might be eligible for. That bonus money is going to be for being a child.
Carol, you're muted.
Carol, you just got muted.
Okay, I know I was trying to figure out how to mute, but I think I got muted in the process. Okay, so this this section talks. This section talks about the bonus money that you might be eligible for, and you get more, if not much more, but a little more if you're a child care payment program provider. If your license says that you're a 24-hour care or you serve children with special needs, you get more. And then in addition, depending on where you're located, if this social vulnerability index map shows that you have a score that falls into one of these 3 categories, then that gives you a percentage more as well. And so here they've put the calculator actually on the website for you. So you enter here the information about your center and it will automatically calculate the amount that is going to be what you can apply for. The application itself is only going to give you the base rate. One of the things that's not clear to me is whether DHS is going to calculate these bonus for you or whether they're going to ask you to do it once your base rate is awarded. But this is where you would find out what that amount would be if you wanted to know. So finally, here we get to the application. Here's the application, and you all know, I'm sure you've gone to it, that it's in DocuSign. And this application guide is actually a document that walks you through all the questions that are going to be on the application. So here, you know, if you printed this out, what you could do is use it as a way to collect all of your answers before you go on to that DocuSign and start entering the information in into the online application. And it's pretty straightforward. Are you an approved provider with a child care payment program? If no, were you licensed before March 11th? I mean, these are pretty straightforward questions. They want to know your provider business name. It has to match the Department of Health's name for your child care center, your address, your name, the owner, ethnicity, race, and gender, the license number, what type of provider you are, and here are all the definitions for how you could know how to answer that question. Your provider capacity, your provider status, and here's how you would know how to answer that question. And here's where you would select all of the other criteria that apply to you that might make you eligible for a bonus award. They want to know if you've completed the registration for direct deposit. And if you haven't, for non-child care payment program providers, here's the link to do that. If you are a child care payment program provider, they say they have sent several email communications to you already that should allow for you to do that. Let's see. Here's where you would check your planned use of funding. Here's the calculator they've set up for you to create your base rate. And then they have certifications and attestations, and we're going to talk to you about those just for a little bit. This right here is the email that they've provided that gives you a place where you can ask DHS directly any questions that you might have. And so you want to make sure that you use this email if you need further information or clarification. In these frequently asked questions, I just want to raise a couple of things that I think might be important to bring to your attention. One is under what is required of me if I receive funding. And we wanted to bring to your attention this bit of information here. Providers are encouraged not to collect co-payment or tuition payments from families during the grant period to the extent possible. And we've had a couple of questions about that. This is also on the certifications and attestations. We want to make sure you understand they're not asking you to say, they're not telling you that you are prohibited from collecting co-payments or tuition payments from families during this grant period. The HHS guidance does not prohibit providers from that. In addition, we want to make sure that you know that one of the things you're going to have to do is submit monthly reports that detail how the funding was spent. And DHS doesn't give much detail about what they mean by that, what the reports are, what they're talking about when they say detail, but we just want you to be aware of that. And the other thing I want to just make sure you know about is that here where they say, can I get these funds? Let me see, sorry. Can I get these funds and subsidy payments at the same time? The answer to this question is yes. Providers may receive subsidy payments during the grant period. So those are the main things that we wanted to go over to make sure that you know. And so now what I'd like to do is hear from you about what questions you might have, what concerns you might have. And again, our primary interest in doing that is because we want to be able to convey to DHS where they could be clearer or what kind of technical assistance and support providers need to be able to complete these applications. So I'm going to stop sharing and let us go back to conversation to hear whatever questions you might have.
I have a question.
Please.
This is Theophilus King with Christian Mission Learning Center.
Yep.
Now, that is a large sum of money that we're supposed to be getting. And it's not clear, based on what they said, that the money is supposed to be spent by September the 30th, 2022. But then it also says in the procedure process that we are expected to spend all of the money as much as possible. And that is ambiguous there. So the question comes up, suppose then by September the 30th, 2022, all of the funds granted to the individual provider is not spent. What happens to the money? Are they going to come and confiscate it? On the other hand, when you read the federal program, it says that all the money supposed to be liquidated by September the 30th, 2023. So it seems as though that there is a double or triple ambiguity on when we are supposed to have the money spent. And what happened if the money is not spent by September the 30th, 2022? That's my question. Those are my concerns that I've asked, but have not gotten a response.
Did you email those questions to the DHS email that they provided?
Oh, yes, and I've spoken to them directly, but I've mailed those questions 3 times directly to the co-chair of the division. All good. I emailed it directly to him and to the email address that is provided on the website. Those exact same questions that I just presented.
Yeah, well, and DHS is going to have to be the one to answer those questions because we don't know what their rationale is for the timeframes that they've put on this.
But the time frame, not to interrupt you, I do apologize, but the time frame that they put on there, the HHS says that the program ends October the 31st, 2023. And then we're saying that the first round that we're getting from Mississippi, the Mississippi Department of Human Services, they're saying that the first round ends in September the 30th, 2022. And then whatever money is left over, they will have a second round. And I've asked questions to that, but have not gotten an answer. And
and they would have to be the ones to answer because I don't know what they're thinking.
No. I wasn't asking for you to answer it, but I was putting it out there for others. If those questions have not come to your mind, I just want to put it out there that those are questions that they need to answer. I am still waiting on them to answer the question because I know they are the one that should respond because they are the one that spoke it.
Yeah, good.
And wrote it.
Exactly.
Carol, this is Lily Robinson with Tender Care Preschool. How you doing? The question I have is pertaining to giving them some insight on what we spend the money on monthly. Do you know if there's going to be guidelines on how much working capital we'll be able to keep in our account during that month, or do we have to exhaust all of it? I know you're going to be asking them questions too, so I wanted to ask that. Is there a certain percentage we can keep for working capital?
That we'll put that on the list. I don't know how DHS.
I know you don't, but
yeah. But these are the kinds of these are the reasons that DHS needs to be doing another technical assistance training with child care providers. So these questions, so they can answer these questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's
may I pose a question to the lady that just offered the question?
Lily Robinson.
Mrs. Robinson, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What are you calling working capital?
Okay, what they were saying, specifically the expenses every month that we use, how much of that can be just left in our account? Just say $2,000, $3,000 left as a balance after expenses. You follow me?
Oh, that's the same question I asked.
Oh. Okay, well, we're on the same page. How much can be left in our account each month in order, to have a cushion? That's what I was asking. Okay, so we're on the same page.
Baby, you're going to have a cushion, trust me.
Miss Burnett.
Carol, I would suggest that, as you know, MDHS, I loved MDHS. It seems to, since the departure of Andrea Sanders to CPS, The directors in place now are frankly making decisions that are always easiest for them to manage, easiest for the department, from redetermination to when redetermination takes place, from direct deposit. They're going to deposit all of this money into the same account. In other words, if you set up
What you need?
if you set up a separate bank account, you
I don't know.
You
You
can-
have cashier check.
you cannot do a separate
Oh, I don't know.
direct deposit for the stabilization.
I've deposited, man. I got the thing, but I'm in a
I'll
personal
wait.
meeting.
Thank you. You can only deposit it into your regular account. I would recommend, and I think the others have recommended, and probably you, Carol, I don't remember, but that you transfer the stabilization grant to a separate bank account once it's deposited to you, because that will help you keep a record of your expenses. And any money that I held in reserve as capital, I would charge against the grant and hold in my regular banking account. I would spend every dime, even if it's, for instance, lease, if it's payroll, whatever. I think you're going to need to expend every penny of this grant so that you can have a good closeout period. So that's my recommendation. I wouldn't hold money in the stabilization grant account for general capital when the expiration date is new or is due. I would expend that money in an item and put it in my regular checking account. That would be my advice.
Yeah, that's what I
All
was
right,
thinking too.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. We
Miss
have a
Burnett.
question from,
Yeah, I have a question.
okay,
Do you know how long after we've completed everything and we're qualified? Because they told us who qualified. So after we've done all the application and given them everything they need, how long will it take for us to get this money? Because I thought it was the 3rd. I don't have no questions about anything. I do have a lot of stuff to use that money on. So I'm ready to get mine. So I don't want to ask them any questions. I just want to put the money in my bank. So do you know how long it's going to take us to get it?
I don't, but that's a good question for DHS, even though,
Okay.
Carol, once again, it's my understanding that Chad Allgood has suggested that no one should expect cash in hand before the 1st of February.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, now there's going to be a training session required on how to keep the books, which is why I recommend you have a separate bank account for stabilization grant. But there's training session on that.
Has he announced that?
I think Dolores told me that he announced that at the last information sharing, not the one that was held day before yesterday, but the one prior to that. No, and the holidays are coming up. So I would not expect, it is best not to plan to have any of these dollars before the 1st of February. Definitely the end of January, first part of February.
Hey, y'all.
In other words, Mississippi will have earned interest over $500 million for at least 1 year. And that's actually legal. It shouldn't be, but it is. But they're going to earn that interest on that ARPA money for at least 1 year before they start sending this money out. And I do think that we need to question this closeout date because they should be doing that. The feds don't even recommend that. This needs to be to help stabilize childcare, and we need to make our voices be heard. Carol, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much. I have a hand up from Everlasting Love. Did you have a question?
Carol, this is Dolores.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. Debbie is correct. Chad did say that at the meeting, previously before this meeting. But the other thing is, the question about money that may be left over, then there is a video that I'm hoping to be able to provide us on, that was, done, I forgot the man's name, by a CPA that DHS, has been working with. And one of the things that he recommended is, first of all, don't just spend money on anything. But in the conversation, you know that we can pass it. And he recommended before you spend any money, send any money back, that you pay yourself, if there's something that you need to purchase and it's not in the recommendations, you can pay yourself and buy whatever you need out of what you know, the money that you see. But one concern that needs to go to DHS about the renovation money. About renovation, and there has been a lot of concern with definitions, and they put on there that you cannot, people will not, ma'am, can I talk, ma'am?
Dolores,
I'm trying to talk and she's talking.
Dolores,
Yes,
you're breaking up. It's hard to hear what you're saying.
okay, it's kind of hard because somebody else is talking. Okay, anyway, the concern about renovation needs to be clear, Carol, because it says that you, assume that you will not make renovation. And I don't think that is what was actually stated in the beginning of the decision. Anyway.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you in a minute. Maybe we can hear you better in a minute. Can we go back to Everlasting Love? You had your hand up and you were trying to ask a question.
Yes, Kara. I couldn't get it was a lot of background noise and I couldn't.
What did I do?
Yeah, there was when you unmuted, there was a lot of background noise. I don't know what's going on there.
Unmute again and start again.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Does somebody on the team have questions from the chat? Has anybody posed questions that I need to take a look at?
I do.
Okay. Anybody have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question about the direct deposit, the FIS. Could you talk about that? We're having problems. It says that we're invalid and we don't know how to fix it. We've called the 1-800 number a few times. They're very rude and they're not explaining what needs to be fixed.
The only thing I could suggest is that you try to call DHS directly and have them intervene on that.
Okay, thanks.
Miss Burnett.
Yep.
I just fixed mine this morning. And what had happened was that MDHS had sent email with a different number on it. So if you're able to get into your portal, you go in and put that new number they sent you in that little block, and then you click whatever that block is on the side of it, and that fixed mine. But you go in the portal if you're able to. I was able to go in the portal because they said mine was invalid, and I searched the email, and there was an email in there that had given me a new number to go in. and you go in, there's a block there, put that number in it, and then click on whatever block is beside that, and that should validate it. That worked for me.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Should we try Everlasting Love again?
Carol, I'm fine.
Go ahead.
I got it straight. I was just trying to figure out the audio.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so Ms. Burnett, I have something else, another
Okay.
concern.
Okay.
So I hear Debbie saying that we probably won't get any money till February, but I set up another account, and you know, when you set up an account, you have to put money in it. So that means that the bank gonna be eating on that money for 2 months before I can get in on my deposit.
No problem. It's that stupid stuff.
Eldora, welcome to DHS.
Thank you, Debbie.
I'm curious, has anybody sent a question in the email that DHS provided and gotten an answer back?
I sent an email yesterday and got an answer back. Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Because
good.
I put a wrong answer on my application, and they told me that they would look over it, and then they would let us know what needed to be changed. I do have one more question about the taxes that you have to pay back. Will nonprofits still have to pay back the taxes as well?
That's not on the website, so DHS would have to answer that directly.
Okay, I'll email them. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Carol, I would recommend everyone check with their CPA or their tax preparers for those kinds of questions. Understand that business expenses are usually a tax deduction. So it's not like, I mean, if you use this money properly, you shouldn't have a huge tax bill. If you leave capital operating in an account, that's going to be capital gains. You'll be taxed on that. But I suggest you check with your accountant or your tax preparer in order to answer those questions. But I don't think nonprofits will have a lot of taxes to pay because they expend all their dollars every year.
But with regard to what DHS will allow under the Child Care Strong Grant, you need to ask DHS the question that you have regarding that.
I think their response has been, you may have to pay some taxes. I think honestly, that's been the response. So I would suggest that businessmen and women check with their own tax counselors.
Well, if you're going to use the Child Care Strong funds, you need to make sure that you've clarified those questions with DHS. I want to say that there are a number of providers that tried to get on to this Zoom at the very beginning, and somehow our Zoom account had a limitation of 100 participants. And my colleague Matt was able to jump in and make a correction so that additional participants are able to come in. But we've had a number of providers who have only just recently been able to join. So for those of you who just got on, we are recording this, and we will send the recording out so that you'll be able to see the beginning, and you'll be able to hear the part that you missed. Sorry about that. We didn't realize that there was a limitation imposed on our account. I want to go back to Dolores Sewell. Dolores, are you still there? Can we try you again so that maybe we can hear you better?
Carol, can you hear me now?
You're very low in volume. I don't know how to.
Well, I don't know my screen, that might be why. Can you hear me now?
She's on a speakerphone.
Well, I tell you what, I'll just send you something in writing, Carol.
Oh,
I'll
now
just send
that's
you
better.
something.
Whatever you just
Okay.
did, whatever you just
Okay.
did got better.
Okay, well, I first said what Debbie stated was correct, but in the previous meeting, that Chad did say it may be latest.
Now we're losing you again. Why don't you put it in chat? Can you put it in chat, Dolores, so we can hear? I mean, so we can read it out loud?
Let me just say something. I'm on the screen with several people on.
Oh, okay.
But I'll just send it to you.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Have many of you already submitted your application?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Good, good.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard anything back yet?
No.
No.
I just done mine today.
For those of you who have not submitted, is there anything that you would find helpful from DHS to give you what you need to finish your application? Or do you feel like it's just a matter of time for you to get that done?
I have a question, and I hope I'm not interrupting.
Go ahead.
Yes, I was out a few days. So as far as the application, what site do I go on to submit the application?
You go to the MDHS site. I will share my screen again. This is the Early Childhood Care and Development Division page on the MDHS website, if you can see the screen. And you would click on the Child Care Strong Stabilization Grants. And that's the page where all the information is that you're going to need in order to get what you need to complete your application.
On the DHS website?
DHS.ms.gov website. It's the Mississippi Department of Human Services.
Yeah.
DHS.
I think if you just Google MDHS Child Care Strong, it should pop up. It should pop up on a Google search. But Child Care Strong MDHS, you'll definitely find it.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's what I can go ahead.
Okay.
You got it ready?
Carol, do you want me to go through some of the chat, or are you monitoring?
Yeah, that'd be great. If somebody could just look and see. I tried to scroll through. I saw a lot of folks' names and centers. Thank you so much for putting that in there. But if you've got questions, that would be great to
Okay, do you want me to go back and
take a look? Yeah, that'd be great, Matt. I'm just going to go down to this email address because I just want to make sure to reiterate that everybody has this if they have questions.
So I'm gonna go back to, I think, where some questions started. And y'all please intervene again if I miss them, or if I'm starting at the wrong place here, because we want to be sure to capture everybody's questions. So I think there was a question initially about oops.
Oh, did you want to leave the webpage up?
You don't need to. If we can just go as we need to. All right, let me pull the chat back up.
Do you know what you want to do withdrawal?
Okay, so
Tell you that a cash is, and you want to withdraw $1,000 from this account. You go ahead and sign up. You want me to do it?
all right, y'all. I think I'm getting there. So the first question is this taxable income? I think we already discussed that. I just want to say we'll be sure to put that in our questions back to DHS.
Yeah.
And I do think that's something that needs clarification. We have a comment. I'm helping a few of the older providers with their application process since they don't understand technology. One of them who is an in-home small provider is not on the good standing list, but she says that she doesn't owe anything and her license is up to date and in good standing. What could cause this? I don't know. I think that would be definitely a question to email directly to the director of DECCD, Carol, unless you have another recommendation. I put
that sounds right.
I put Chad's email address in the chat, and you can click on that and or copy and paste that, and you can email him directly. I don't know what could have caused that other than if they were just capturing licensed center-based providers. Maybe that category provider was not included, but that's just, I'm not sure. So that's definitely a question for Chad directly. The next question or comment, I think we've heard this, the direct deposit FIS. Could we talk about that? Our center is still invited, but the 1-800 number isn't much help and they're rude. I think we talked about that, and we'll again include that in our questions and feedback back to DHS. Also, will nonprofit centers have to pay taxes back? Again, I think that's definitely something that we're going to get very clear on from DHS and try to get them to add that to their FAQ on this website page. So here's the next question. If you filled out your application and failed to put the complete address, what do you do? Try to correct or do a new one? I think what you would do is you would email that help email address that DHS has made available on their Child Care Strong website. And I would email that general email they've made available for questions related to your application, but I would also email Chad Allgood directly. Carol, if you have another, or anybody else have another suggestion on that one, but I think that's how they want to route the questions that are specific to your application. I would email that and CC Chad Allgood. When are the funds set to be distributed? We talked about that. We will definitely include that in our feedback that we need a clear timeline. You can transfer the funds into another account. I'm not sure if that, I think maybe that's a question. I'm not sure about that. I think, again, that would be a question to route through the DHS helpline or directly to Chad Allgood. I don't think that's addressed on the material they've made available. When was the application open to fill out, and what is the website again to go to? I just mentioned this a minute ago, but just to go over again, it's December 1st is when they released the application. And if you just Google MDHS Child Care Strong, you will be able to pull it up. Also, if you just go to mdhs.ms.gov, and if you scroll down and click on the Division of Early Childhood Care and Development, they'll have a link to it on that page. But I think what we can do is share, make sure you all have exactly the websites that you need to get to the application. I see this, it says the 20th of every month. That is referring when the monthly disbursements are going to be made. And that is in the current material they have available. They're setting this up as you all know, monthly disbursements. And they say they'll be dispersed by the 20th of every month. It's prayer time. Yes. If you want to apply for increased funding, do you upload the additional documents? If you want to apply for increased funding, do you upload the additional documents? So I think this question is referring to this this policy they put into place where if your base rate plus the bonuses you're eligible for amount to a total that's actually less than your current operating expenditures, DHS is giving you this option to say that it's less than the amount of your current expenditures. But if you opt for that and say this award amount is not adequate, they are saying I believe, Carol, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're saying you will have to provide documentation to demonstrate and justify the additional award amount beyond what the calculator result is. And so we can send that language to you, but I don't think we know much more than just that. So this is some funding will be issued prior to the first month of the award period. Once a child care strong application has been approved, the provider will receive an email notification containing monthly award amounts and a notice of the next date for release of funding. Initial award funds will be released on or about the 20th of the month. Okay, so yeah. I didn't see anywhere to upload documents. How do I know if my application is correct? All I did was DocuSign. That is another question for the DHS help email, but also to CC Chad on that. I'll
tell you what
the how often will the list of centers in good standing be updated? I have not seen any information that has indicated how often that list will be updated. They just have said it'll be updated periodically, I believe, or something like that. So again, I think that would be a question for Chad Allgood, probably. Let me just scroll down. Submitted on the 1st through DocuSign, have not heard anything. I've completed my application online. What are the next steps? Am I to send in the additional information? I believe my center license capacity caps off at the maximum amount. I accepted the issuing amount. So am I to send any more information? I don't want to say for sure one way or the other because obviously DHS would need to have the final say. The way they've set it up, they honestly, that exact question is not very clear at this point. And I think that what we want to do in the feedback to DHS is get more clarity on that point. So we will include that in the recommendation because the way they've set it up, it seems like the documentation, providing the documentation would be required if you're applying for the amount that was more than the estimated amount. But I don't want to say for sure, we don't want to say for sure that they're not going to require you to produce documentation. Are there virtual options to health and safety training? A virtual option would be excellent. I think we'll absolutely include that in our recommendations and feedback. I am not aware of that. If anyone is aware of that, please put it in the chat. If there's a virtual option for health and safety training. If you receive the $400,000 cap amount, are you only allowed to spend this large amount in 6 months? The way they have it set up is, I mean, the answer to that I think would be yes. And as I think we were discussing earlier, that's not in line with what the federal timeline is. But again, that's something that there's not enough information really yet on this. But from what it looks like, the answer to that question would be yes. But I think we need more clarity on that, and that's part of why I think what we need to include in our feedback. Has anyone heard how long until we get a response after submitting the application? I have not heard of a specific timeline. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier, or there was some question on that. I'm not sure if anyone's heard back yet. I haven't seen a timeline though. Does all the funding have to be spent in 6 months? Yeah, again, it seems the way they've set that up. That's how they've set up this first round. Once we sign the DocuSign, are we done for now? I think that is definitely a question to take to the DHS help email, and it's been set up for this, and to Chad, because I don't want to say for sure. One of the requirements is that you not collect tuition. How is that possible? I think that's a great question. It is certainly something I think we are going to, I think Carol went over some of those certifications. And of course, you all see that that is something that you have to certify in your application.
And Matt, can I just say that
Yes.
there's not a prohibition. It's not a prohibition against collecting.
Right.
It's saying that you will agree not to the extent possible. That's the language. So you're not prohibited from doing it. You're just encouraged to do it if you can. And if you can't do it, then you're encouraged to prioritize eliminating collecting fees from the lowest income families enrolled in your center. That's the way the language is in the certification and in the frequently asked questions on the DHS website.
Yes. Is there another application besides the short one with the DocuSign application? I am not sure about that. Carol, do you know the answer to that? I don't know.
The DocuSign one is the only one I've seen.
Yeah, I don't think there's another one. If funds will not be available until February 2022, why is the cutoff time September 30, 2022? Great
That's
question.
a good question.
Great question. That is going to be reflected in our feedback that all of your feedback that we take to DHS. Someone just told me to contact my R&R because there are virtual trainings. What is an R&R? Carol, would you like to take that one, or someone?
Yeah, the resource and referral agencies are regional entities that DHS has located around and about the state to offer training to child care providers. There's a list that you can find on the DHS website. I haven't heard that they're going to be doing virtual trainings. I think that's great news if that's the case. I'd like to follow up and find out about that from DHS. Angel, I see you asked that question. If you, I don't know who advised you about the R&Rs having virtual trainings, but if you could share that information, that'd be super.
Okay, and so there is a link that Kim Nobles has shared for virtual health and I think that's a link for where you can find information out about health and safety trainings and virtual trainings. That's the University of Southern Mississippi. The website is, and it's the MLICCI. Yeah, does someone want who shared that? Kim, can you talk about that? Or if anyone knows about that, the website's in the chat, so check that out. Here's another note from Carol and Todd. There are virtual options for health and safety in my area of North Mississippi. I'm scheduled for a virtual class on December 9th, so great. Are they still going to be issuing child care certificates during this period? If so, why do we need to use this funding for that purpose if parents are eligible? You are allowed to continue receiving subsidy. They are still going to be issuing child care subsidies during this period. And in fact, there's a lot more child care subsidy funding coming into the state. And so that's a great point and a great question, and it's going to be something that we seek further clarification on. This says, hi, I was just informed that in order to get the extra special needs funds, you'll have to have a W on your license. Does anyone know anything about that?
So the bonus funds, both for 24-hour care and for special needs care, apparently there is a designation of those services on the license issued by the Department of Health. And your license has to have that in order for you to qualify for that particular bonus. All right, I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. So I see a hand up under Rose's iPhone. Rose, if you have a question still. you could unmute and ask it. Well, we have quite a number of questions that we hope to get back to DHS and get. Our goal is that, you know, it would be great if they could answer these questions in the frequently asked questions section of the Child Care Strong website so that everybody can see the answer. We also are going to encourage them to make training available and to make the training that they offer widely known to providers for those of you who haven't already completed the application. I would just encourage you to use that email that DHS provided on the website where you can submit questions that you need answers to as you go through this process. All right, do we have any other questions?
Here's another.
Yeah, I see that. And that's again, you know, if the feds allow more time to expedite this funding, well, I just lost it.
So yeah, it's if the feds allow more time to expedite funding, how can the state cap off the spending in 6 months?
In 6 months,
To
yeah, that's
stabilize
just.
staff salaries over the next 3 to 4 years. How can I do this in 6 months? I need to be able to spread the money over time in order to get stabilized.
We completely agree. We completely agree. And that is a question to, you know, something that we need to continue to push DHS on, and especially after hearing that concern from so many of you. It's certainly something that they have the authority to change if they wanted to. Well, our follow-up to this meeting, excuse me, our follow-up to this meeting is going to be to share the recording with you all, and also to communicate questions to DHS and to share back any information that we learn, and to encourage DHS to add some of the questions to answers to the most frequently asked questions from you all onto their website under frequently asked questions. Debbie, I see you had your hand up. Did you have another question or a comment?
I have a comment, Carol.
Yeah, please.
The last COVID-19 task force meeting we had, we determined that we preferred the formula-based disbursement over requiring tax records, 3 months operating, et cetera. And Matt did a good job of explaining that you only have to provide the 3 months operating with documentation if you do not agree with the calculations that you come up with. If you feel that needs to be increased, they do want to cover at least 6 months operating cost. But I don't think they're going to, and don't get me wrong now, they're not my best friends today, but I don't think they're going to come back and suddenly require all of us to provide 3 months operating cost. I don't think they even want that information. I'm not sure they understand that information. They don't have the capacity to process that information. So I don't think we need to have that concern, but it is good to have 3 months operating cost when you begin to budget and plan how you're going to use the stabilization grant. But I don't foresee them coming back and requiring that.
They're only asking that you provide that if the amount that they calculate your award you think is lower than what your monthly expenses actually are.
That's right. If your base grant does not cover 6 months operating, then and you want it increased, they'd be happy to receive your 3 months operating costs, but they will ask you to document that, and rightly so.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the circumstance where they would want that documentation.
But I don't think they're going to come back and require that of all of us, because frankly, that would be too much work for them. And they just don't have the capacity to read it, understand it, store it, etc. That's my opinion.
What they said in the frequently asked questions is that they're going to require monthly reporting on the amount you do receive from them. And that the details of what that reporting consists of, we don't have that yet.
I'm sure they'll be working to develop that as we go. I agree wholeheartedly that 6 months to expend this money is absolutely ridiculous. Not in the best interest of Mississippi, not in the best interest of families or childcare.
Rose, I'm wondering if you are able to hear and unmute now. You've had your hand up for a while. Rose's iPhone. All right, there's something in the chat. As directors who are entitled to this funding able to come together and challenge DHS about the time frame? There's no way you can earnestly and effectively spend $400,000 in 6 months. Even if you budget the funds are to stabilize your program, in 6 months is not enough time. We need to speak up quickly. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that point.
Hoping that was an error, don't you think, Carol? That was just a typo. I'm hoping.
It said multiple places, so I don't think it was a typo.
Wow. Yeah, we need to raise our voices on that.
All right. I see we had a few providers who came in, again, well into the webinar. I'm so sorry that many of you were just able to get in. We had a glitch with our Zoom account, cutting some people off, and we were able to fix it. But we are recording, and we will provide the recording so that you can go back and view it and see the beginning where we went through the website and talked about the application, and where we heard questions, excuse me, questions and concerns from providers who were on the call. Let's see, is there anyone else who has a question or want to raise a concern? We'll definitely share with you the communication that we share with DHS, trying to summarize where providers need additional clarity, and also some of the concerns, such as the 6-month time frame.
Carol, they're asking, when will our recording be available to them?
Yeah, as soon as we can get it up. I know that sometimes these take a day or two, but very soon we'll get it up as soon as we can.
Another question, will you be able to pay off mortgage with this money?
That is a question for DHS. If you look under the, what can you use the money for, there is an explanation about what DHS needs.
I'm in a phone class right at this moment. Let me see, can I get out of here?
They identify mortgage and rent as one of the uses of the money, and under that on the website.
Yes, I was calling you about the 3 items that you got for me.
Somebody can mute, please. Yeah. Under the mortgage and rent item listed as one of the costs that you can use the money for, it says it includes payments made for a mortgage, rent, utilities, maintenance costs, and insurance required to provide child care services. That's
Carol,
on the website.
Someone's asking if you would be willing to help providers challenge doing something about the 6-month time frame with DHS.
Yes, we're definitely going to be doing that. right, let me just ask, does anyone on our team have concerns or information or issues that you feel like we need to bring up or highlight before we get off the call?
I don't think so. I think that kind of covered everything. And we'll send out the recording like Carol said, so that should catch everybody up that wasn't able to join initially.
I agree.
Excellent. Rose, I see you unmuted. Did you still have a question that you wanted to ask?
No, the question was answered.
Okay, great. That's great. All right, y'all. Well, please, again, refer to information that DHS has on their website. Also, be sure to check it periodically because DHS has said that they're going to be continuously adding information to it and updating it. The biggest thing that we're going to push DHS to do is to provide more clarity and to provide training and technical assistance as people are trying to put applications together for these funds, and then how to use them once the funds are awarded, and even what that time frame is going to be. But we're definitely going to be communicating to DHS and working with all of you who would like to work together on the 6-month thing, because that seems really unworkable. Well, thank you all so much for joining. It's great to see everyone and hear your voices. Good luck and have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.